Excellent. Jen, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
You bet. So before we get into your good work, I want to begin our journey with this question. And I wanted to put it to rest, but it's too pervasive. 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging, changed
Mhm.
so many things. We all had to pivot, rearrange, and get through it. Ultimately, how did you survive the pandemic of 2020, and how has that reverberated into your life in 2025?
Ooh, good question. I actually moved from Austin to San Antonio 6 months before the pandemic really slammed us. I had just left a career of education, public education and coaching, and most of my family was in San Antonio. And I just wanted to go, and my core group of girlfriends were all in San Antonio. So I'm like, there's nothing tying me to Austin anymore, so I'm gonna go to San Antonio. And man, like, did I get there at the right time? I feel like what happened was, for lack of better wording, I put my life and what I went to San Antonio to create on hold, and I dove into my family. Not my family as in my kids or my significant, because I don't have those, but I dove into supporting my family's business. We have a self-defense and fitness facility in San Antonio. And anybody who knows the fitness industry during COVID, that was really difficult.
Yeah.
So I ended up diving really hard into supporting them. My sister was the fitness director, my father was the owner, lead instructor. And so I did a lot of work really diving in with that and helping there. And there had already been some pretty dramatic shifts and changes in our family dynamics through personal development that I had started. And that never would have happened had I not started my personal development when I did.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been there with them supporting me, and us continuing to develop the relationships we have now. And the reason I bring that up is you say, how is that reverberating into 2025? My father is my biggest supporter and constantly thinking of how do I connect her with who to get what she's doing moving. And he's actually honestly, he's the foundational reason what we created actually exists.
Yeah.
And where our work has headed, which is just so mind-blowing to me sometimes. And my sister the same, just how do I get you in front of more people? How do I support people to know who you are? So I went from feeling estranged and not belonging to my family to doing some personal development, which allowed me to move to San Antonio. Then COVID hits, I dive into my family, and now my family is really like, the foundation of why what I'm doing exists and really helping me get there and really being my biggest cheerleaders out there.
So let's get into the heart and soul of what you do now in 2025. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and the kid in the back of the room that's curious is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
I help people get along. I help people have more joy and not feel like they're being attacked in conversation so they can actually have a conversation and it feel really good when they're done.
What did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream job?
Ugh. I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was 12 years old.
Okay. Okay. So take me back to your childhood. What were these foundational elements that have evolved into your career right now of
Mhm.
helping people get to that place of being heard and feeling better about their lives?
Yeah, you already nailed one of them on the head there, being heard. I felt like a child who was not seen, who was not heard, and who was not known. And it developed me into somebody who got very quiet, who did not share, who was afraid to speak. I used to have a fear of public speaking, um, and just really didn't let my light and my gifts shine, right? I just felt like I had to perform
Yeah.
for love. Everything had to be earned. My value was based in what I produced, in how I did, not who I was. And I don't even feel like I know that all of those are elements that are foundational to what we either do in our business with first responders, with educators, with corporate leaders, with groups. And it's also the foundation of what I do when I work with someone privately. Is it's not so much um, it's not becoming someone new, it's remembering who you always were.
So, who's been a hero for you? Who has allowed you to find your voice and to help people have their voice? Who has been that inspirational force for you?
Ooh, Brene Brown
Yeah,
is who comes to mind for me. Really, because I think most people start their transformational journey by reading books or listening to podcasts because that feels safe at first, because it's going to be yucky and uncomfortable, right?
yeah,
So it's like I'll just do it on my own time.
yeah.
But Brene Brown, her work on vulnerability and courage and what it takes to be who we are, and the possibility of no longer belonging to anyone else but truly belonging to yourself was so profound. And I've read literally every book she owned, every book she's read, or sorry, every book she's written.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I can say that was pretty pivotal in guiding me in some principles and being willing to start practicing those ideas until I started getting actual education behind it and actually getting the content behind how do I share this with others? How do I support others through this? How do I help other people get to this place?
The one thing about the message from Brene is that it's all about risks. We have to take risks to get to where we want to be. When you look back at your career arc, what's the biggest risk that you've taken?
I left in the height of my career with no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah,
I was 12 years into being a public educator and state championship soccer coach. I was the girls' athletic coordinator. There really was nowhere else to go other than to admin, which I didn't want to do.
yeah,
But I had taken a team to state 3 times in the last 5 years before I left. And literally everyone was like, "What in the hell are you doing? You're here, you're there, you've arrived, right?"
yeah,
And I'm like, I just got to a point again through self and personal development of realizing I was doing what I wound up doing, but what do I really want to do?
yeah.
And for me, for some reason, maybe because of how I was raised and the father that I have and my mother was just, I don't care. Like, I want to go find out what else is possible. Now, I was lucky enough to have a home that I had owned for 9 years in Austin during a bit of the boom. So I did sell it and I did have some money to support me to take that leap. But I went and did some fashion. I wanted to let the inner child
Yep,
run free.
yep.
And that didn't last too long before I found some other things. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest risks I've taken in the past. And that was 2018 that I left. Like, don't really know what I'm gonna do, but I know I need to leave.
So, did you have a moment in when you found your true calling? Did you have a client? Did you have a moment where you saw a twinkle in someone's eye, or you saw results where you knew this was your calling? You sacrificed, you gave up to this career, and you wanted to find something different. Did you have that epiphany, that big moment?
It's funny when you say it like that, it's like in the moment, I don't see it as a big moment, right? In the moment, it was just a moment of
Yeah,
like, oh. But looking back, when you said that, the first thing that came to mind was my very best friend of now 25 years. They're twins, actually. One of them came to me to be a private client. She was my first paid private client. It was so uncomfortable to ask my best friend to pay me money. But in the real life, right? Like our best friends and our family should be the ones paying us. That we should
yeah.
not be asking for discounts from them. We should be supporting them the most.
Huh?
But anyway, she was in a very dark place. A suicidal level dark place. And first of all, I didn't know that. And I'd known this woman for 20 years, right? And she's sitting in front of me now, not my friend, my client, separating those two and just getting to support her through that and witnessing her actually really pull herself out of it. I didn't do it. I guide, right? I support. I'm not doing anything for you, but witnessing her really pull herself out and then her later giving me um we'll call it the review, the testimonial, however you want to call it, that I would say that you changed my life, but really you just brought me back to who I always was.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the joke is, right? The irony is I left teaching and coaching to find out I'm a teacher and a coach. I'm just not a public education teacher and coach.
Mhm. Yeah. So let me ask you this. What has been kind of your philosophy on work balance and personal life? You have to take care of your soul. You have to nurture yourself to help others, but you also have clients and you have a business. How does that work? Is it like a Libratic scale or how do you do that?
I really feel like you have to learn, you have to find out what your hell yes and your hell no's are.
Yeah.
And yes, you have to work quote unquote hard sometimes, but I really do believe that if you're truly aligned with what you're doing and in love with what you're doing, it's not going to feel hard the way we, excuse me, the way we define it. And it's not going to be exhausting the way the things are that we do just because we think we're supposed to do them and that we're just supposed to continue to pull up our bootstraps, even though we don't have the energy to do it. Does that happen sometimes? Sure. But I still think the experience is completely different when you're actually aligned with what you're doing and in full joy and you're following your joy with what you're doing.
So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten from somebody?
Stop worrying about how.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, in that case, it was in relation to business, right? Like, how am I going to do this? Oh man, because it's so paralyzing.
Yeah.
It's not about how you're going to do it. It's what do you want to do and why do you want to do it? And if you know those two things, you'll figure out how.
Yeah.
My very first NLP training is a great example. I used to host trainings for people to get certified in NLP, and I was like, "Oh, I've never done this. This is terrifying." And my coach at the time was like, "Well, just get out there and see if somebody's, if these women want it." Because I'd had women telling me they wanted to learn, and she's like, "People want to pay you to learn, and you haven't figured it out." And I'm like, "Huh, good point."
Yeah.
So I sold it, and then I was like, "Well, shit. Now I got to figure out how to do
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it."
So let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of everybody that's known you as a teacher, as a coach, your clients now, everyone that knows you in a professional sense, and you could tell that room one fun story. The first concert you went to, one of the best sporting events you ever witnessed, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear, some fun story. What would you tell that room of people?
It's actually not about me. It's about something I witnessed,
Yeah.
which is my father used to run a women's self-defense. Well, they still run a women's self-defense organization called Dangerously Cute. I actually turned it into a nonprofit during COVID. Like literally got the nonprofit official letter, like the formal elicitation letter, like 2 days before we shut down the
Oh
world.
no.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It went back to a for-profit. It's not a nonprofit anymore, but they still
Yeah.
do it. Anyway, when I was a teacher and a coach, he would come to our school, Vandergrift High School, and he would do self-defense seminars for us as a fundraiser, and he'd give us all the money. And that was extremely kind because I know what it costs for him to do that. Anywho, one of my, I think she was a senior that year, one of my soccer players, captain, senior, is in there. And so what they come in, they teach you the skills. We have conversations with them. And at the end, the men that are there put on suits and the teenagers, the girls get to go ham, right? They get to put everything they learned in full force, hold nothing back, right? And so she goes in and she does her thing and it's almost easy. Like she's almost like disappointed. Like she's athletic and just mean, right? But in a good way.
Yeah.
And she comes over and walks up to me and she's like, I want to go against your dad. And I'm like, okay. So I go tell my dad, I'm like, hey, he's not in a suit or anything. I'm like, she really wants to go up against you. She wants to know what she's capable of, this, that, and the other. And he just looks at me, he's like, hmm. And he just goes and puts a hat on, like puts a helmet on that just has a face cover, and that's it. He's like, let's go. Right. And gets in the middle and has her close her eyes and she's turned around backwards. And he walks up and he picks her up right underneath the bottom half, right around her legs. And just, she's only like 5'2", and like grabs her 5'4" and just holds her, right? And she opens her eyes and just starts hammer fisting his face. I mean, as hard as she can. And everybody's just watching, but there's other people going at the same time. And I'm just watching this like, oh my God. She cracks the faceplate,
Oh wow.
breaks a little bit of his, doesn't break his nose, but breaches his nose. He's got blood down his face. He puts her down or he's done, right? And puts her down and he just looks at her and just gives her the biggest high five of his. He's just laughing his ass off. He's like, that was amazing. And I just run over to her because she's just elated and she's covered in blood because of it, it was all over him.
Yeah.
And I just like kind of grab her and turn her away from everybody else. And I'm like, you did amazing. That was freaking awesome. You're covered in blood. Just go straight to the locker room, wipe it off before people freak out and they won't go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's just like,
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
she walks away just,
Yo,
you know,
yeah.
totally empowered. But it was just one of the coolest things. I
Yeah.
don't know. It was just witnessing her fully step into that, how proud and like just excited he was to
Yep.
see her step in. It was just, it's one of my
That's
favorites.
great. That's a great moment. So let me ask you this. Of all of the things that you've accomplished and evolved into in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, where my family is now,
Yeah,
the relationships I have with my family, relationships I didn't even know I wanted.
yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. I know I'm a guide. I know that I'm only received by people who are ready to hear me. I think that's anybody, right? But like
Yeah.
knowing that is different,
Yeah.
really being able to know that and stepping away from if they don't and they judge or they reject has nothing to do with me. They just weren't ready to receive it. Um, I'm capable, I'm the bigger picture. I'm gonna have the human reaction, I'm gonna have the moment, but when I'm given space, I'm gonna back up and I'm gonna really be able to see like what's actually happening here. I can take in multiple perspectives and really try to create cohesion.
So I got to know, being old school Austin, what's the greatest thing about living in Austin?
It's just always something to do.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. There's always something to do. Indoors, outdoors, music, art, food, activities. Like there's just always something to do.
So have you been to the Comedy Mothership, the Joe Rogan Club?
I have not.
Okay. I hear it's really hard to get in there. I was just curious because I know they rehabbed an old place down there and I just didn't know.
Well, now it's going to be on my to-do list.
Yeah, there you go. So if anyone wants to hire you, they want to reach out, they have questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
The easiest thing is to go to our website. It's motivaction.academy, and it's not .org, not .com, motivaction.academy, because everything's there. You can schedule a call, you can get our emails, you can find our Instagrams, our YouTube, like literally everything's there on the footer or on the different pages. Plus there's free resources there. We've got some little quizzes you can take, 150 unconventional questions for people who want to learn how to be more curious. So there's just everything's there. It's the easiest place to go.
And I will put that in the show notes. Jen, this has been great. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.